Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. You'll find my 6 other podcasts and scan the QR code or go to roycon.com. If you're looking for virtual assistants, you can go to va.world and we've packages from $99. I'm joined again by my good friend Peter Wilson, which I thoroughly enjoy. We have our monthly call, and basically anybody that has questions, fill out the guest form that I have on my website and we'll make sure that we cover. How are you, Peter?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to our monthly chat for sure.
Yeah, so what I'd like to just start off on today, I mean, I'm hearing Checkmate the Matrix all the time and everything, but when did that, I know we've discussed both of our journeys of losing everything, but when did it become, let's set up something for Checkmate the Matrix? What's the story behind that?
Well, to be honest, the name itself, right? If you looked at the first website that I actually created for this type of thing, it was called claimyourstrawman.com, and I still have it. That's the email I use. I don't really do anything with it, but I've still got it for the email. But the reason why I did it was just like to pay homage, really, to John Harris. So hopefully a lot of people have heard of him, and the reason why I'm saying pay homage to him, because, he was part of the film Straw Man, Nature of the Cage, where they were discussing and showing a lot of the difference between legal and lawful, being the man and how the legal system created the straw man. So, and that's really why I actually started that. So that's where, and I still got the website, but I mainly work on the Checkmate the Matrix platform, but I've still got that side. And it was only when we started to plan the live event, which was like the big live event. I've done, little events where you've went around and just been in a hall or in a tent, or things like that, and around the country. But we wanted to do our own event, which we called Checkmate the Matrix. Although that was called Checkmate the Matrix Live, which was in February in Newcastle. Great event, fantastic speakers, fantastic information. So that's really why we're sort of like, let's have something. Because what I wanted to call it initially was UK Anarchy or UKanarchy, right? Like anarchy in the UK, right? But meaning obviously self-governance, because that's really what anarchy means, although everyone thinks it means disaster and chaos and everything. It's not. But then when I was looking at it, I'm thinking, yeah, that's great, sounds good, play on words, blah blah. But if you have to go and book a hall, and you're dealing with all of these people, and they're saying, well, what's it for, and why is it called anarchy, and you've got this we know the people, so it's slightly better, but it's quite a swanky building, the building that we're using it again next year, but we know them, so it's we're on the same wavelength is the thing. But it's a wedding venue as well, and it's an art gallery. It's a beautiful building. It's called the Biscuit Room, inside the biscuit factory. And this is what it used to be in the 1800s. It was a biscuit factory, and it's an enormous building. And this guy that we know, he's took it over, he's bought it, and he's refurbished it bit by bit by bit. I mean, you've got one wedding room, which is just literally full of live plants. I mean, giant big plants growing up the walls and everything. And it's all misty in the room, to make it like a jungle type of thing. So it's beautiful. They've got like loads of, at least I don't know really much about art, but they have artists coming and doing their exhibitions, in their art room. So you've got to be a bit careful on what they would allow in there. Anarchy probably wouldn't be the word. So, and that's why we came up with the term Checkmate the Matrix, because that's what we're all trying to do. Play a better game of chess against the Matrix, so that we can put them into checkmate rather than them beating us all the time, which is basically what happens. And how do they do that? They do it with the Roman Empire's brilliant plan that they've been using for thousands upon thousands of years: divide and conquer, and they're still doing it, and you can see it every day. And I mean, once, if you can get into the mindset, you can actually enjoy it. And you can have like make a joke about it. And even though when it's very serious, and obviously some of it is, but you just think, look, how can anybody not see what they are doing? and it's purely divide and conquer. Even when you look at Hannibal, who was fighting the Roman Empire thousands of years ago, and he drove the elephants across the mountains to come in the other side, who did they actually get to beat him? His own people. His own people killed him, Hannibal, who was the biggest enemy Rome had at that time. And it was the same when they were fighting they call them the Germanic and tribes, in the forests, when they actually slaughtered the Roman soldiers, the Roman legions. They got wiped out. So how did I can't remember his name now. The real true, historical, how did they kill him? His own people. His own people turned on him, spies, paid enough money and killed him. It's all about divide and conquer. How can you pay one side, right, to kill the other side, and then you can sit back and watch the show? That movie, it's very old now, called Gangs of New York. And you see them, wearing the top hats, and it just looked a bit silly, like people say, well, it looks silly, I don't want to watch that film where you're wearing the top hat. But it was showing we're all the way back in 1800s when the Irish were landing, in New York and trying to establish themselves, and so obviously what do? You've got to hang around with people that you probably feel similar to. You've got the same language. So you had the gangs, you had the ones that were born in the United States who told themselves patriots, and then the Irish, which you called invading hordes, and then they had the actual huge gang fights trying to control the streets and the crime so that they could make their own life and their own money. And then you showed the elite side, which were the posh people there. And he says, well, and he was talking about, he was trying to think of his name. His name was Bill something, not the real politician. I'll get it. But they says, well, his version is you can always hire one half of the poor to kill the other half. Problem solved. And there you go. And it's, it's still going on now. Just split, divide, and make sure that everyone's arguing with each other. And then you don't concentrate on what's really going on. So that's what we want to do, is try and teach people how to start thinking a bit more clearer and stop playing drafts and move up to chess, and then start playing a better game of chess using the tactics, and then start to put them into checkmate using better techniques than rather than, running up and smashing your head on the brick wall, or not the brick wall, but the Roman shield wall, whereas all the tribes were just, their heroics would be to, strip naked, paint themselves blue and run at the shield wall, enough of them to overpower it, but it didn't work against them because they were too well organized. So rather than using the crazy tactics, learn better tactics, sneak behind the wall and attack them from behind, and then you can start playing a better game of chess. Checkmate the Matrix. So that's basically where the thought line came from anyway. Long story for a
No, very good. And I mean, you're on about the different people attacking. I mean, I'm not sure that I mentioned it to you, but there was one of the radio stations, I put a post on the Facebook, and it was about 75% that were attacking me because it was a stupid thing where they were just about parking. And I said, why don't you talk about the chemtrails where it's affecting us all? And I got serious abuse, unbelievable nasty. And just left it. And then I said, okay, why don't you check out my interviews that I have with real scientists, not paid for scientists? Zero. Nobody kind of goes, oh, sorry, or whatever. They just, then it just stops. And that's the society we're in. And no matter what you're doing, everyone's going to attack you. You must have experienced that as well. I know, being a martial artist and, you got in the ring, you're not afraid. It just feels you don't let that get you. But unfortunately, a load of people do. So, one, you might just let me know what kind of attacks you've had. You probably still get it. It's people don't want to believe you. They think you're batshit crazy and they'll just attack you. But for those that wouldn't have the same strength as yourself, what would you advise them how they could just navigate this minefield?
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you don't even have to, let's just say you put your head above the parapet, you're going to get some kind of stick, be it from the authorities, because oh, don't you step out of line. But mainly it's not. It's from, like I said, it's the people behind you, innit, that are actually there lined up to go and stab you in the back, and that they're paid for. A lot of them are paid for. But, nowadays, unfortunately, right, you don't need to be the one that sticks the hand up and starts. You just have to have a simple opinion. You've just said, even that. It's not, you're not trying to preach. You know, you just got to say one, you know, certain thing, and you can get attacked, you know, like just crazily. But so it's difficult to say, well, if you don't want to get attacked, don't say anything, because then literally you're saying never speak for the rest of your life and don't ever have an opinion. So it's very difficult. But you know what it is like meditation really, and central and control it and grounding has got to be the most powerful thing that anybody can do to, let's just say, give you that layer of protection, or I don't know, like an armor, or maybe, you know, some people say, oh, well, they're thick skinned. How do you know that? Because you're not seeing them in the private, right? But right, I think is you have to control. I mean, I'm not being funny, you know. I sort of like grew up in an incredible violent atmosphere, or environment, I should say, and it was all about, like, you know, fighting and violence going all the way through, right up and into adulthood, you know. And obviously, I turned it around by using that kind of environment to move into professional fighting, and you know, rather than, you know, using it and ending up getting into so much trouble and arrested and all of that nonsense, like they did it where you would actually get paid for it. So that makes more sense. But you know, the discipline that takes is incredible, and obviously the pain thresholds and everything like that. But you know, that sort of like grounds you and sort of like puts you into like a position, and you've got an, you know, internal position. And I think you have to truly really know yourself. And if you think, right, the amount of, let's call it self-hypnosis maybe, but meditation, that you need to control every emotion that you have to step into a ring or a cage or whatever it is that you're going into, to literally put your life on the line, because there's plenty of people that I know that have died tragically, you know, never expected it, just it is what happens, you know. But you're getting serious, you know, blows and everything like that that could kill most people. And that's what you're putting yourself into. But you've got to be so centered that you're going to put yourself not only in that firing line, but, you know, where I was like live on Sky Sports, you know. So if something bad's going to happen, the whole world's going to see it. You know what I mean? So how controlled that you have to be to really zone yourself in. And I think take it away from the fighting atmosphere, but still you need to go and do a presentation, or just like even have a confrontation with like a parking warden, you know what I mean? You know, so, or a bailiff, or you've got to really, right, ground yourself, center yourself, and protect your energy, protect your own energy from being harassed. And I think a lot of it is to do with that. And if you want any, you know, not even if you want to try and put a point of view across, but if you've just got some simple point of view of like, whatever, I don't eat meat, or like, you know, or like, you know, I don't like them spraying the skies, like you were just saying there, or, you know, anything like that whatsoever. It's just like, you know, it's like someone's going to have a ridiculous opinion, you know. I mean, I've just got the allotment. So I've been talking to you about the allotment quite a lot, especially like on the private side, you know, like in my private groups, you know, and just showing a little bit of the work that I've been doing and trying to clear it. I mean, it was a disaster mess. It's never been touched for a few years. So, you know, I cleared an area, got rid of this like horrible building so I could put a shed on. But the base was there, but it wasn't like it was solid, but it wasn't 100% even. I thought it's going to do. So I need to get this building up, put stuff in it so I can progress. So building, it was slightly off, right? But it's fine. Standing up. It's got a roof on. There's no rain can get in. I've waterproofed the entire thing. It's brilliant, right? Janine, well, I took a video and a photograph of it. So Janine put it up on this. I think it may have been on Facebook, but in like a gardening group thing, and people have gone, that looks terrible, that shed looks rubbish, get that shed. Just like, what the fuck's it got to do with you? And why do you have to be so opinionated? What is the problem? Right? It's just crazy. She can do something as simple as that. She just thought, oh, isn't that nice? He's worked so hard. He's gonna put a picture up of a shed, you know, like 4 days of building on my own as well, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, the whole thing. It was, and I'm still in pain from here to here, like climbing up and down ladders on the roofs, falling off, fell off the bloody ladder. You know, like yeah, and people are gonna have a daft opinion, but you just got to go like, whose issue is it? It's not mine. You know, it's obviously their mental issue, so it's got to wash it off. So you just got to, you know, and that's it. Spiritually wash as well, not just go and have a shower, although you have to once you try to put the shed up in all the dust and the wind, but then just, you know, spiritually shower it off and get rid of it, because it doesn't belong to you, you know, it belongs to them. So just like, yep, take it all back, take it all away. And that's it. Send it. I don't know, really, I'm totally, you probably would never think about it looking at me, you know, but like really deep down, like meditation and relaxation, I get crazy, you know, like I was talking about doing that bundle. We'll have to talk about it. Wow, the printers and everything, but you know, it goes back to it. And then get outside, get in bare feet and standing on the grass and just grounding, relaxing, hugging trees, the energy that comes from nature. And that's what you got to do. Just get back to nature and let everybody else, you know, get on with it. And then, you know, when they're giving you all this, you got to give them a present. You get in your pocket, search for it, right, and take it out. There you go. Get on with it.
And the thing is, it only hurts if you accept it.
Exactly. Well, there you go. That's perfect. Yeah. No matter how many sort of like, you know, gifts that they want to give at you, if you don't accept them, then they've got to take it back and it belongs to them. Even an insult, if you don't accept it, well, who's it belong to then?
Exactly. Before we touch on the file, because I know that's very important, since we're on this subject, even my mother in Cork in Ireland, she's had about 3 different incidences where, you know, people were following her and watching her, and she got away from somebody in the car was following her as well. And that's kind of more and more is happening. I mean, they've left in, and it's not just Ireland, it's all over Europe and probably all over the world, really. I know they're leaving in a lot of migrants, a lot of crimes happening, but also with the gypsies as well, because a lot of people, they think all the Romanians are like gypsies and they're horrible people, but they're not. They're actually lovely. I know a few Romanians, they're lovely, but it's like the vermin that come to our countries. And they're obviously going into the shops, they're filling their dresses with all the stuff and just robbing it and thinking nothing, a lot of pickpockets and stuff like that. But there's been a few instances. There was one on the radio, my mom was telling me recently, but they, like, about 10 people surround people and they take everything from you. And it happened to a friend of mine. They took his phone and everything. And about 10 of them come around. So, like, one, because I know you've got in the school thing, you've got the martial arts thing and how kind of standing your confidence and everything. I suppose we might just touch on that because the chances now are on the increase. Like, I grew up same as you, like a rough neighborhood, and that was normal. But then things kind of calmed down. But it seems to be getting worse again. So you might just touch on what's the best way to be kind of protecting yourself and being vigilant, to be watching out for stuff.
You see, the vigilance thing, that's one of the most important things. Now, I've done sort of like little bits of training on like close protection, like a bodyguard, how to be a bodyguard, so what I've always tried to do we've got a free self-defense course as well. If anybody wants to go on, you can go on to checkmatethematrix.com, right? No, you can't. I've closed that.
It's in school. I'll give the link for it. It's in school, but it's free. And I was going through it, and it's good information. Like,
yeah, you know, but I mean, there's a lot of free information on there, including that free self-defense course as well. You know, I mean, I know people who literally charge thousands for the information that's in there. But like my take on it is, right, let's look at this as if we're going to give yourself a job. And your job is you are going to be the bodyguard of you. So you are going to treat you like a VIP. So if you were the bodyguard and you were looking down the street because your VIP is standing behind you and you have to get them from A to B without getting into any trouble. See, the bodyguard's job isn't to go and beat everybody up in a situation. The bodyguard's job is to avoid all confrontation. So yes, they probably can handle themselves and probably do have things that they can use, right? If a confrontation happens that they just can't avoid. But the whole plan is, people don't think about anything in their lives. They're always rushing. They're always running around. So just think about it and give yourself the job of being the bodyguard of the VIP. Who was
Just
the
make
VIP?
sure it's not the bodyguard of Trump when he got shot, because they weren't good.
I think that they were like they tried to bodyguard the guy with a gun, I think, but was not even shooting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Don't say
it looked like it was all orchestrated. When you look at the video of him getting into the car, it was a setup, 100%.
Yeah, complete thing, man. Nonsense. But yeah, and then look at it. So I mean, I know like a guy. I'm telling this guy, he's huge, right? Massive like that. He was a professional fighter as well. He ex SES. He was a bodyguard for the royal family. Not that you want to brag about that, but he was. And and even now, like, well, it's been a long time since I like spoke with him, but he says that it doesn't matter if he's in a bar and he's just bought a drink, and he says if there's this on the other side of the room, and there's a trouble starts in there, he leaves it and it gets out. He says his mind is if he was sitting there with one of the royal family, and on the other side of the building there was trouble, then that royal family like is in danger. So they have to be removed. So that's what he does. He removes himself because now he's the VIP. So if you think about it like that, you can start looking after yourself a lot more. Would you really go down that street? Would you really go into that shop? And some of it is really quite obvious, if you take your time. And there is areas, unfortunately, you think, well, we know that there's a lot of certain people go in that area. I'm not going there. Don't take your VIP into that area. Now, I don't want to get too gruesome or whatever it would be down the self-defense route, but we've got a lot of good sections in that self-defense course that show you how you can turn many simple household items into a tool that could be used to defend, maybe, even save your life. Anything from simple like a pen. The pen's one of my favorites, and we've done a lot of like Filipino martial arts. So the Filipino martial arts, they work on a weapon-based system. And it's all to do with, swords, sticks that would replace the swords, and knives. But then, you don't want to be carrying a knife, but you could carry something that of the same size, like a pen, where nobody can say you're not allowed to have a pen. But, if I'm not saying, get a little plastic one that's going to snap when you pick it up. But I mean, there's certain pens that you can get a hold of that can do an amount of damage to somebody's hand, for instance, that was trying to grab a hold of you or trying to pull you, into a back alley or things like that. I mean, if you've just got the right tools with you at the right time, which are everyday items, keys are deadly, hairspray. Right. I mean, I'd probably have to think of a good excuse for me to carry a kind of hairspray, but but what you can get, you can get, it's called something like K9, like the K and the letter 9 or something like that. And it's dog spray. You can get this legally as well. Right. And you can spray, and it's like a pepper spray, not as evil as what, the police have, but it's supposedly to be sprayed of a dog if a dog was attacking you in the street. You can use the same. I mean, and we're using the tin of hairspray because to spray in people's eyes. Because ask any woman just try to spray her hair, or you walk in and they're doing it and you choke to death. But like sprayed directly into the eyes or into the nose or mouth. Well, this thing it's just only about this big, and you can just keep it in your pocket, and it's like a canine spray. You can easily Google it. There'll be different versions of it, different brands, and you could carry that. And all you're saying was, "Oh, I'm scared of dogs." Nobody can say, it's not a pepper spray. It's not like an illegal salt, but I'm scared of dogs, right? So I've got it there. And then if you're in a situation, you spray it directly into their eyes, nose, mouth, you know what I mean? And then you can also like defend yourself with the actual spray tin, because there's certain things that you can do. I've just been doing, son, he's just spent a few months in Thailand doing training over in the Thai gyms there. So I was running like his instructors classes, teaching his instructors. Now, I don't teach them what they're teaching all the others. I want to teach them something different. So I was doing a lot of Filipino martial arts with them, how to use the sticks, or how to literally, some of them this big, and it's devastating what you can do with if you know correctly what to do. And then obviously a little bit of joint manipulation and movement. I'm not saying you're going to be able to do these things within a day or so. But one or two simple things can be absolutely devastating. Umbrellas, oh, unbelievable. You know what you can do with an umbrella, even the little short one. And if they fold and you wrap them around your hand correctly, you know, it's it can be a very effective tool to save your life if needs be. And remember,
I did kung fu for I think about 8 years, and there was one guy. He was a sixth dan. He was the main guy there, and at one stage he says, "You can kill anybody with anything." So me being a smart ass, I said, "A leaf." And he said, "Ram it down his throat." So, you know, that's the thing as well. Like, you've got your thumbs for the eyeballs, you know, or just hit there. And it's like just the little techniques are, it's strange. You probably, everything just, once you start doing training, it comes naturally, like getting out of headlocks and things like that. You just, the simple manipulations, because sometimes people think when a guy is a big, huge guy, I've taken out bouncers in clubs that came to our club to like that were training and everything, and they're in shock and they're kind of they're thinking, how could you actually take them down so easily? There's so much techniques with the wrist and everything that you can actually get somebody to dance by just holding their wrist up like that, or just just standing and everything. So I'd recommend everybody actually go away and do a few lessons as well, but do it in a look around, because there's some clubs they haven't a clue what they're doing, but there's brilliant ones as well.
yeah, but I tell you, I've seen a video just this week as well, which made me smile. Everyone else probably think it's shocking, but it was in a gym, actually, a weights gym, a fitness gym, not a fighting gym at all. And there was this, and these guys like were not young, right? It's like, and the one that well, I don't know what happened. Obviously, whoever was videoing it, you got to cut it down or whatever. They only seen the actual attack. So whatever happened before, I don't know what the guy did. He might have said something or did something, don't know. But this guy come walking over. He was huge, right? It's all about like about at least a good sort of like foot and massive, big like that, right? And he grabbed a hold, and this guy he looked to be in his like late 50s, early 60s, and he started punching him in the face. The shorter guy. So he's obviously trying to move out of the way. He may well have had a little bit of knowledge what to do. He was ducking his head, moving, so he wasn't getting hit too much. Next thing, he's grabbed a hold of his balls, right? And I tell you what it is, you ever seen somebody that big trying to run away, eh? Screaming and running away, and then you never come near him again, I tell you. So you just grab a hold of him and try and rip him off. You'll see them move. Yeah, you'll see them running away from you. But like dead straightforward basic things is like that as well. But yeah, for sure. But like I say, like you carrying a pen, just a little bit of pen, but like I say, don't make like a little plastic horrible thing like this. But you can get great bamboo pens. I've got a bamboo pen and it's beautiful, and you got that in your hand like that, and they've grabbed a hold of here, and you start stabbing in there. How long are they gonna take before they let go of that? Yeah. But also, like, remember, they want to do things, right? They might be blatantly even grabbing you, trying to rob you in broad daylight, but they want to get in and out and get out of the way quickly, and they don't want people to see them and be able to identify them. Okay? So if you could put, and I know it might sound gruesome, but I mean, it's your life. How many people do you know that like end up getting killed and they just like for ridiculous things, killed over a phone or £20 in a wallet or something like that? You don't know what's going to happen. And if someone's grabbing and attacking you, I think all bets are off, me. You know what I mean? And whatever they've done, if they've stepped into that arena by attacking you, then whatever happens, happens. But I always look for the face. Like, I mean, yeah, if they grabbed a hold, I'm going to get rid of that in the hand. But then I'm going to want everybody to know who it was. So, I'm going to put something in the face and mark them and make sure that even if it's the police say, well, look, that's him, you can tell because I've just opened his face up. There he is.
He's got a big pen stuck out of his cheek.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Well, the guy there with one eye, because here is the other one, So it's like, whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's like, so if you need to get them to release you, but then after that, if they come close enough, gouge it out, make sure that you're going to know exactly who it was. And you can say to the police, well, that's them. That's them with half a face gone, So make it identifiable to them because they don't want anyone to know who they are. Nasty, but it's, I mean,
no,
it is what it is.
It's relevant, yeah, no, brilliant. So I suppose let's talk about the important thing, the file. I mean, we both have issues with printers and printers track everything, but I mean, how we got to that conversation is creating a file. So how do we create the proper files?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, I've actually been building over the last year. I've been building a course, for people to be able to fight various different things. Corporations like the council, right? I've got no opinion on anyone. Pay council tax, not pay. I'm not telling anyone what to do. You do what you want, but I'm talking about what happens afterwards. So whatever decision that you've made, and then there's a result of that decision, something happens with like liability orders or bailiffs or something like that. This is how you can deal with them using the law. Right, it's not law, is it? But, that's what they call it. So regulation, legislation, or some of it is the Law of Property Act, they call it. So I've been building this course. It's not out yet. I've done little bits of it and little bits of day courses to show people how to do certain things. But we're going to use GDPR, data protection. This is obviously I'm covering, mainly even like a lot of Europe has GDPR. It covers nearly all of Europe. In fact, I think all of Europe, definitely in the EU. But it ties in with, say England, Scotland, and Wales, and the north of Ireland, right? On there, the DPA, Data Protection Act 2018, goes in with along with that. But other countries have their own Data Protection Act to back up the GDPR. It's very, very powerful if you use it correctly and learn what they're talking about and learn how they breach their own regulations all the time, these debt collectors and what have you. So we're showing people how they can use equity tied into GDPR and DPA as well as contract law, putting all of that together. And then you're actually, instead of you being worried about debt collectors or worried about parking tickets, right? They're not tickets, actually. They're a breach of contract charges is what they actually are. Complete nonsense. Private car parking companies, the pirates, or if it is council tax, whatever it is, the actions of the bailiffs or the debt collectors after that is so outrageously corrupt that they need to be put in line. They need to be punished for what they're doing. And they know 100% what they're doing is wrong. That is what you would call an unconscionable act. And because they're acting unconscionably, that's how we can use equity, because equity law is for transparency, fairness, justice. So we put them into use that to put in with the GDPR. It makes it a real bulletproof case. So, but the thing is, what a lot of people will do is they'll go to see one or two videos, and then instead of going along and studying the entire course of videos, because I have videos starts off with one, goes right the way through and shows you how to do the entire process, but no one's got the staying power to watch video 7 and 8, right? I've watched 1 and 2, that'll do me. And they go off and not realize how complicated it can be if you don't know how to cross, dot the I's and cross the T's. So anyway, next week, we have a really big case in court against a council, a local council. Now, I don't want to say too much, until after this case is done. And even then, you got to be so careful, because this is going to be so powerful. They don't realize, the people can read. They think that that they can do anything they want. The arrogance and the ignorance of the council is beyond belief. And the actual people that they employ, which are the likes of Cedar, Bristow and Suda, Marston's, they are just as bad. But the council, in this particular case, went in, I've got this file and I'll go through exactly the whole story. But when we were in the court the first time, okay, so I'm actually attending court. It's not my case. It's nothing to do with me as a debtor or a council tax line.
Kind of like a McKenzie for the person that's gone through it, is it?
Kind of, but I'm actually acting as a trustee. Now, here's the difference, right? I've been a McKenzie friend many times all over the country, yeah? But when you do that, you're not allowed to speak in the court. You can whisper to your friend, but you're not allowed to say, hey, no. You know what I mean? You can't actually say anything to the judge, and you can only speak when spoken to, really. You know, so you can tell your friend, you know, like whatever, whisper, but you're not allowed to have anything to do with the proceedings or anything like that. But this time I'm acting as a trustee. So literally, as a trustee, then I have a duty, a fiduciary duty, where I can actually speak. So I'm allowed to speak, the same as when their solicitor starts talking or interrupting, I can. Right? So that's a big difference. It's a completely different ball game. But anyway, so it goes into...
And just because that's very important, like, how do you actually do that? Because sometimes, a lot of times, people, they buckle, or is there something that's in the course that you have to get that? Because obviously, you know, you create so much free content. I understand you don't
Well,
you give away your golden eggs as well.
It's not just that, though. You know, I mean, you've got to be a bit wary of what you actually say, because you don't want people to get themselves hung either, do you? You get them, because that's what I'm saying. They'll watch 1 or 2 videos instead of the series, and if they run off half cocked, you know, they're going to get shot. You know what I mean? So
just on that, actually, because there was Christopher Hauser. I was looking at a lot of his videos. He had about 60 or 70 videos, and the very first few, thousands, and each new video you could just see it shrinking down, and then everyone complaining about, hey, this doesn't work for me. And he's like, I told you exactly what to do. So people try to go, yeah, I know now. So what you're saying, most people are like that.
Oh, it is. I mean, the amount of I've stopped answering messages now. You know, it's literally, I mean, I just thought it was incredible. Last year, I went to a festival last year in Cumbria. It's got to be about this time. I think it was May. You know, it rained the whole weekend. It was horrible. I mean, everyone enjoyed it. It was great. You know what I mean? It was in this massive, big, soddy field. It was like everyone's cars got stuck in there. You know, like Matt Letizia was there. Tom Numbers was there. Like Mark Atwood was there. Oh, I've got her name on my phone. Can't remember it now. Like the Irish woman who was the nurse. But anyway, there was a lot of different speakers there. It was great. You know, but I did a whole presentation on there about how to do using I didn't actually include equity at the time. I just used GDP on DPA and showed them a series on how to actually do this. I said, and if you want all the templates for free, go to my YouTube channel. Just download them all for free. They're on there. You know, go and do it. It's all for free. That you talk about getting attacked. Boy, did I get attacked a lot for that. I tell you, people are telling me, like, you know, only the ones that are trying to sell this stuff, though, to people. That's who, you know, I'm actually hurting their cash cow, right? So that's how they're attacking me and coming up with all these lies and nonsense. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to give them, so like getting too complicated. You know, there is ways and there is courses that we have in Checkmate the Matrix where they can show you how to actually become a trustee, you know, and how it would work. Right. So, you know, I would recommend that rather than say, oh, yeah, you can do it. Don't worry. Because then people are going to go in there and then they're going to get questions. They're going to be looking, going,
or say the wrong thing and dig a hole for the person. Like,
yeah, exactly. So he's lost his house. Why? Well, I don't know. So anyway, I was in the court and waiting. Went into the waiting room, and you could just tell, because this is a council tax thing, so it's not a real court, right? Which is a lot of people still disagree with. Oh, good, they've split again, divide and conquer. But I guarantee you, that's not a real court. All right, been there many times, so I know exactly what a real court is and isn't. On both sides, I've been in there. So anyway, this councilwoman says to my friend, you know, oh, can you come in the office? And, you know, we need to chat with you. He's there. He's got like this about a liability order. So I gets up to go in with him. She went, oh, and who are you? And I just went, well, I'm his trustee. And then she's like, I don't know what that means. You know, you can't come in. And hey, and this is true as well, by the way. He's on permanent medication for ADHD. He is, and it's documented and everything. So, you know, he needs someone to speak to him. You don't want him to get agitated. The whole day is finished there. You know what I mean? So it's a good medical reason as well. But anyway, so I went in. This woman, right? I've dealt with a few different council I think, like, I think we touched on this, like one of the last talks, these are not from the same place as us, they are not people with empathy. These are a different race of aliens, I know we're all aliens, right? But these are from a different planet aliens, these ones. Planet Knob. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Planet Knobhead or something like that, you know what I mean? It's like, and then I says, look, basically we've got this set up there, and you've actually used the wrong paperwork, you've used the wrong name, you've actually got no jurisdiction to actually be using any of this information. I don't want to go too deep into it, and like I say, I've got to go and do this court case on Wednesday next week. And she went, I have jurisdiction over everybody and everything. I was like, oh, really? She went, yes, as over these people, over companies, over trusts, over everything. Nobody tells me what to do. I was like, what the hell? I was like, well, I says, you haven't, by the way. I says, and there is jurisdiction and jurisdictions. And she went, I'm not arguing with you. Out you go. Honestly, it was crazy. And 3 times we actually had to deal with this. And on the last time, when they tried to stop us going in completely, said, you're not allowed to be a trustee, you're not allowed to be this, you're not allowed to be that. And, but eventually, like, what they can't do is they can't argue with cold, hard facts. That's the difference. So I'm not going to go off, and I don't want to be rude to anyone, but we're not talking about a pseudo legal system. We're not talking about, oh, well, I'm a man. We're not talking about, I'm under the creator. 100% believe in that, by the way. However, I've just gone in and I've used 100% legislation and regulation and equity. And I've done it all correctly. And the fact is, right, even on their own, it's like the Local Government Finance Act 1992, which covers, like, England and Wales. Scotland, the bits of it's a little bit different, but they have certain things that they have to do and they never do. And it's just a business model that's being created to make it easy for them. But nobody knows that. So they accept it. And, whatever happens to them, happens to them. But if you're already breaking your own rules and you can get held accountable for that, right? I mean, what they've done is way beyond the breaching of the Local Government Finance Act 1992 with their own rules. It does give them special. This is what a lot of people don't get. The councils and the magistrates court, which is why, even though it's a civil case, why is it in a magistrates court then? That is a criminal court. Well, it's because, right, when they changed it from the poll tax to the council tax, they invented this special statutory powers presented and given to the councils and the magistrates courts, where the jurisdiction, or the authority is what it means, will always remain with the council and the magistrates court for any council tax matter, right? Doesn't matter what it is. It completely overrides CPR, civil procedure rules. So where you're dealing with a debt collector for a credit card, unpaid credit card, they have to follow civil procedure rules. Council tax don't have to do that, right? But they abuse that power so much because they don't have to worry about civil procedure rules. I mean, this is the book, right? This is how chunky this book is. So we read this all the time to make sure we're following the rules, make sure we're doing everything that we need to do to hold those debt collectors accountable that are trying to tell you that they bought your fake debt, right? But if you're not following that rules in there...
What is the name of the book there, just for those listening, just up the audio? Civil Court Practice 2022. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2020. You can get one every year. But I mean, if you buy the... Where are we in? 2025, it's going to be about 600-700 quid. Yeah. So, there's a reason why they charge so much money for a bit of paper. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we don't want the people actually reading this. But like I say, though, on the council tax coming under the Local Government Finance Act 1992, they don't have to follow the rules in that book. They've got their own special rules, right? But it doesn't mean that they're allowed to breach their own rules that was actually created for them to make it easier to prosecute people for no reason whatsoever. So if you delve into the Local Government Finance Act 1992, take an account of it, what happens after, when they actually try presenting a liability order. Now, this is slightly different in this case because we're actually talking about a trust as well that was created well before, right, that any of this had happened. So if there's a trust created and this asset or this property is being placed in a trust, I'm not saying, by the way, that means it shouldn't have to be charged, or whoever living there shouldn't be charged with their fair share of council tax or whatever term you want to use for it. I'm not saying that, but it has to be treated in a special way. Now, if they create a trustee, right, which I was one, but another trustee that has got no benefit of the property, does not reside at the property, does not live there or receive any benefits from the property, they purely have a fiduciary duty to protect the trust and the trust assets, then they cannot, under any circumstances, be held liable for anything to do with that property, be it like a gas bill, electric bill, water bill, council tax, right? Anything. Okay, even, you know what I mean? It's like if they have a special clause in the trust to say they have to make sure the maintenance of the building, then fair enough. But if that clause isn't in, then it's nothing to do with them. They just have to protect the fiduciary duty of that to make sure that the beneficiaries receive the benefits of the asset, whatever that would be, cash deposits in bank, gold, or in this case, a house. So anyway, I can't go too much into the case, but then what we've done is, this is a court file that's been created exactly the same way as a lawyer, solicitor, barrister, whatever it is one you want to call it, prepares to go to court. This is the type of file you need to buy. You can't go and stick it in an envelope and give it to the court. If you're taking a debt collector to court, the council to court, right, whatever it would be like that, you have to have a file, lever arch file, right? And it has to have, I hope you can't see any of the writing because this is the true one. This is the one I had all the trouble with. And it's just full of the evidence that we gathered coming up here. I mean, this is how you'd have to create it. You would have it at your front, you would have your bundle index, and it tells you everything that's in there. And then it's all separated with all the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that the judges or magistrates or whoever it is can just look at the front page, go number 6, flick it to number 6 and read what they want to do, rather than going through what nearly 100 pages that I have here. So it's going to be, what I have is I've got my skeleton argument. You have to make sure you got a skeleton argument and write it out like it would be a solicitor or a barrister. You had to have I've got supplementary statements because it's going to different people. But then I have a witness statement. Then I have a draft order. What I want the court to do. I've created a draft order that they should read and agree or not agree with. Okay, then I've got all the exhibits. What's the evidence from the council? What's, in this case, the council, or be it a debt collector? Exhibit A, what did we do? What did they do? What did we do? What did they do? A, B, C, D, E, F. All of the exhibits, all under there. Okay, then I have my evidence of what I'm actually presenting. In this case, I've got public notices, which is the description of how this trust was created and when, and who the trustees are and what trustees' duties are. Okay, and then it goes into all the way right down to the last part, which is what we call the certificate of service, where I have to sign it. I have to tick how I've delivered it, literally how I've delivered it. Do it by hand, Royal Mail postage, special delivery, special courier, and you tick it in the back, sign it, and then you put it all together. And that is how you get your case file created after you have done your court form to get into court. So in this case, we had filed a form called an N244, which is a general request form, really. All right, which can be used for many, many, many different things. But in this case, it was to set aside a court order. They called it a liability order, but it was to set aside the order. So you have to fill in the N244 because I wanted to set aside an order that they had created. And because it's an order from a specific court, you have to file that at the specific court. You can't file it at Northampton Business Centre, for instance, which is the main centre for the rest of the country if you want to file a complaint or a claim. If you were wanting to do it to a debt collector and you were taking them, you wouldn't use an N244, you would use an N1. And the same thing, though, you would be sending that to your local county court. You can send it to Northampton, but if you do it the way that we design it, then you're going to be using GDPR, DPA 2018, the Data Protection Act, but also equity. Now, because we're tying equity into it, we're going to use a local county court because they have jurisdiction. They have like combined jurisdiction, equity, and common law. And that's the difference. But in this case, this is like
just on that,
pages.
you have to give a few copies of that, because when I was in the High Court in Ireland and I had to submit all this stuff, but that was like my affidavit. But I don't know, was it 2 or 3? One has to go for their prosecution team, one for the judge, and then you obviously keep a copy yourself. Is it the same with this?
Exactly the same thing. So we've got 3 copies of this. So you've got to buy 3 files like this. You've got to have 3 index files like that. You've got to buy all the paper, and then you have to have the printer that decides if they want to print any of it out. Or is printing half of it out and then like mixing the order up. What kind of printer starts doing like, oh, I'm just going to do this today. I don't care what you want. So I put it in. I've created all of this. It took me a month to actually finish the bundle, just all of the paper there. And then the printer, it just started at page 20 odd. I'm like, hang on a second, what happened to the rest of the pages? And then trying to get the indexes in, it just wouldn't print them. It was like, well, it's just absolutely insane. And just think, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but is that getting interfered with to stop us printing out what we need to print? I mean, it's wireless. It is a wireless printer. So there's a signal coming from somewhere. And if there's a signal in the air, right, which it must be if it's wireless, then there's definitely a way to interfere with it as well. You know what I mean? But it took me, honestly, it's like I had spent a month creating it. I was like, quite pleased with myself. Got ready. I've done this. It's not for me. It's for someone else, right? I'm not getting paid, by the way. It's just because it is a friend. It's not like a McKenzie friend. It literally is a friend. And, so just done all of this, like, and then I spent all day yesterday. I actually finished, I think it was about like 6 o'clock at night, like last night, right? From 10 o'clock in the morning, just printing the file. It's like, hang on now, come on. And I had 3 files up there, and I had to keep swapping the pages to get because the printer was mixing them all up. And I was only printing 1 copy at a time, by the way. I know like sometimes if you print 3, it'll print 3 shit. No, 1 complete copy. Then I was going to do the next one. And it was like, hang on, there's like half the pages are not here. So I was having to go and print, literally take it to page 18, print page 18, right? We get to page 72, print. It was like that all day, like, and putting it together and putting it in, hole punching it and putting it in there. Dear me, I tell you what, he's going to buy me a beer next week, win, lose, or draw. Well, we are winning, and I'm definitely winning.
But I do that with all my, like, I've got files for everything I do like that. And the thing is, like, when you're going into court the day before or even in the morning, when you have to just review everything, that it's fresh, because you can't be kind of scrambling for paper and everything. It's very easy when you have it prepared like that you're just going through it, you have it systemized, organized, and you're not, because if you don't do that, you're reading the wrong things, you're just grabbing paper. You're not going to win because you're not organized. And it's the best thing you can do is just file everything. Every letter you get that's registered, file it. Keep everything. And in that way, then as you're doing it, and just, I know this is kind of different, but it could be relevant, because like when I had stuff, because you can get the documentation from the banks, because I know a lot of people get the stuff and they redact like so much stuff. Like I was getting on 3 properties that I had in Ireland a full lever arch, and like then I had to go through everything. But the amount that was redacted, like, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. They're kind of saying, oh, that's our private stuff. Like, it's basically when they were abusing me, because they were seriously abusing me. I mean, they should all be locked up for the way that they were. And like, they were doing that to everybody. But is there any law about redaction?
Well, no, that's the thing, is that they are allowed to actually redact it, but only if it's not your data. But, we know that they're trying to hide our data all the time. They're abusing our data all the time. And it's trying to actually get the facts, and how do you prove that? you know. And this is the thing, you know, like how do you prove it? So unfortunately, they are allowed to redact a lot, and you'll never know what was redacted. Was it your data or not? You're never going to know. But because of the proof thing, you can't say anything. And which is what I keep telling people when they're coming in and say, "Oh, well, I'm suing the debt collector," and there's a list of all these things they're suing them for, like, you know, fraud this, fraud that, see, you know, harassment and all that. So you can't do that. And they'll say, "Well, why? Why can't I do that? Because I've done it." Well, prove it then. Show me the literally cross T's and dotted I's where that's 100% proof beyond a reasonable doubt that that was 100% fraud. You've got no proof. You know, you can't prove the fraud. We know what they're doing behind the scenes. We know that, like, you know, you don't actually borrow money from a bank. Banks don't lend money, right? What banks do is they deal in securities. They buy and sell securities. So it's you that create the actual credit when you sign what you may think is an application form, be it for a mortgage, a credit card, or a bank loan. It's actually a financial instrument that has a cash value. And when you sign it and date it, it's like writing a check. You've just given them 25 grand, 100 grand, 250 grand. Then they cash it in their own account. That's a cash value. And then they take the instrument and they sell the instrument as well. Right. And this is, I'm not making this up. You can easily go and check it. Professor Richard Werner, go and have a look at his stuff there. He's a professor of finance, you know, and he tells you all about how the financial system works, how the banking system works. He even tells you how good it is. He's not attacking it. He's just saying, yeah, it's how it works. It's great. As long as it rolls along properly and nobody interferes with commerce, then it works perfectly. Nobody should worry about it. But they never lend money. You create the actual credit. So, but is it fraudulent or is it just the system? Now, when they're saying you've actually got to repay the money, why is that fraudulent? Where's the proof that you can say this happened, you know? And I'm not being funny, but like the judges themselves, even if they knew this because they'd watched Richard Werner videos, they're not going to side with you. They're not going to go, oh, well, yeah, of course, you know, you never borrowed the money. And we know that they can't prove that they did give us any money. We know that they can't show us in their accounts where it came from, you know, but they're not going to ask them to prove it. So you can't prove fraud. Stick to something direct. That's why we use equity and GDPR and DPA, because we can attack it, pinpoint it, and show them you haven't got a legitimate interest assessment in there. What's a legitimate interest assessment? It's exactly the same type of thing that you need when you want to build a building, right? And you want a risk assessment before you send somebody up the ladder. If you send somebody up the ladder without a risk assessment, right, you're going to get fined and maybe shut down, even if they don't fall, because it's just a risk assessment. Same thing. LIA, which is the legitimate interest assessment, or the DPIA, which is the data protection impact assessment. If they haven't done them and haven't got them, right, they've breached GDPR. Article 35, right? So again, that there, if they haven't got it, they're breaching it. You can shut them down for that breach. Then you've got them accountable. Now, not only that, but they won't have the documentation that they're alleging that they have. So, you know, and that's part of it. That's a document. They have to have an LIA and a DPIA. And if they haven't got it, right, same as your insurance, you're not allowed to drive that car then, right? Well, they're not allowed to collect that loan then. It's the same thing. You just have to find out how to do it. And then you can prove that, because it's paperwork. You can't prove a hypothetical, did you lend me the money or not? Where did it come from? It vanished. Money grows on trees. No, it doesn't. It just comes out of thin air, actually. You know, you magic it with a pen, and that's after you've stabbed someone in the hand with it, you know. But yeah.
Just on that, we've seen
you've
like,
got to
with redaction, that because every time you're on with a bank, and whether it's credit card or whatever, because I know so many people go through this internationally, and they always say this call has been recorded for training. But when I requested that, they wouldn't give it to me, because that would have proved the abuse that I was receiving. I requested, because if they've got the thing, I asked for the MP3 of the files that had recorded. Have you ever seen where somebody was able to actually get the recordings from your credit card? Yeah,
100%. And not so much the recordings, but video. Okay, I'll give you a specific, and this is what I'm actually on some kind of nighttime show next month. And it is nighttime. It's like 10, 11 at night or something. I'm dreading it. But anyway, And it's all got to be about AI and how the facial recognition and everything's getting in more and more and more. People don't realize that this has already been proven to be unlawful in the Supreme Court, in the appeal court in England, in London. So they can't do it, but they still do. But nobody challenges them, right? Well, just recently, very recently, it was one of our group members. Horrible incident happened to her, and it was in a public place. Therefore, it was videoed. So, and I said, well, you need to get the video. You need to get the CCTV. Then you've got the proof of the incident. So she rang them. Were very polite, very, oh, okay, we'll have to get you to the manager. No problem. Yeah, we can get that sorted for you. Come to the manager side, very pompous, like, oh, nobody ever gets the CCTV. It's GDPR. We're not allowed to give you anything like that, and that was it. So I said, well, look, I created a subject access request, or an SAR, people call it. Some people call it a DSAR. I said, look, send this in, ask for your data, and if they don't give it to you, you're going to prosecute them. Right, and you're going to report them to the Information Commissioner's Office. So they sent this, since you got a report coming back saying you can't have that because there's loads of other people's faces on there would be breaching their DPA, their GDPR, or their data as well. So, well, that sounds like a you problem to me, right? So we, so anyway, we've got to send them a second backup one saying, if you don't give us it within 7 days, we're going to report you to the ICO. They come back. Actually, I think that letter they actually ignored, or that notice they ignored. So we filed at court. Went, right, we're taking you to court then. Right. So we filed at court, did the M1, did it to the local county court. They got the notice, right? Amazingly, the video, boom, the next day. Okay. With everybody's face except hers all blurred out. They'd had to hire a specialist to do that, but that's their problem, not your problem. You can request the data, right? So they have to blur everybody else's face out. They had to give her the video, which proved her point, right? What happened to her and blah, blah, blah. So there's her proof, Now, she could have still went on and claimed compensation because they had already done the breach by refusing. And it's very, very clear and specific in the GDPR legislation. If you refuse and you're allowed to ask, it doesn't have to be writing. You can do a verbal request. That's just the same, has the same amount of authority as you writing it in. But if they refuse, then that's a breach and you can prosecute them for you. I mean, you might get 500 quid, right? Compensation, and I said, well, do you want to go through that? Right? Or you've got what you needed. You've won your case. You've proven your point, right? Now you can get on with your life. Let them, so we closed the case down. But she proved her point, or we proved the point, yeah, you can get that. And if they don't give you it, then you sue them. You file against them, put the claim in. And that's what, we've got to try and get more people to do, because it's, oh, no, you're not going to have that. Oh, we're not going to show you that. Well, sue them then. Right. So if everybody started doing that and everybody started suing them, how long would it be before they started to actually play the game and do things legally, instead of literally stabbing us in the back and ripping us off left, right, and center all the time?
I think it's important as well, because you said, they could have got maybe 500 if they want. You have to choose your battles, because sometimes if you've got 10 different things on, I mean, there's a lot of work involved in it. And it depends how important it is. But sometimes the small ones, even with me, I just kind of go, let it go. Don't fight this one, because even just getting the registered letter, the time taken writing it, going to the post office and everything, it's all time, and time is money. And I say choose your battles.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's why, I'd said to her, well, look, you've won the battle, really, because you've got what you requested. They refused it. You've used the correct tools, using the SARs or DSARs, what some people would call it, using GDPR and DPA. I didn't even use equity in this case because it was too clear cut. There is this presented. Now, she could have easily went for the compensation as well. But as soon as they got that, they were really arrogant. Oh, nobody gets the CCTV. I've been doing this job for 20 years. Nobody gets this. Well, here you are. Here it is. Sorry about that. Now they actually says, now can you close down that case, because we don't want to go to court. Now, they could have easily went to court and they would have got plus costs, because it wouldn't have cost her anything. They should have got £500, and There's no way of them getting away with it because their admittance was they supplied the data. So not only did she have proof of the request, proof of the refusal, but also proof that they provided it. They didn't have a leg to stand on. But again, she wanted to get back to her life, right? So, that was kind of like, just leave it, let it go. You've won. Like, take it as a win, get on with it, enjoy it, like, it's not, it ain't gonna make it, if it was like a million, then yeah, come on, let's fight it. But, for 500 quid, in a time out of your life, because there would still be a file written like this for 500 quid. You would still have, I mean, that probably cost me about 30 quid to actually create, but you would still have to have all the files. You'd have to have all the evidence. You would have to have it indexed. You'd have to have a witness statements. You would have to have it all done properly and have your file in a lever arch file ready to present. Make 3 copies, like you said. One for this was like an actual, it was a big corporation actually that owned these public venues. They'd have to have a copy. The court would have to have a copy, and you would have to have at least 1 copy. So, and that is the effort. So, I mean, if it were like a million, okay. But if it was 10 grand, then yeah, okay, worth a fight. But, she'd won a battle, so let it go. But yeah, choose your battles for sure. Some of them are just simply not worth like the grief that you're going to actually get out of them.
And I mean, like with the city council, with me, it was a tenement building I had with another guy. And they started billing us for refuse collections that we never used because there was an alcohol shop that there was only 3 people left in the building. And and they were like, charge me like 7 grand or something like that. It was 28,000 zlotys. And I was just not acknowledging it. And they just kept, and then they reduced it, But every time I went after one, my letters, the system I use, I gone through 10 different people because they just change it. The next person then attacks me. The next person attacks me. And it's like, the thing is, a lot of people, they get the letters and they just ignore it. But the thing is, once a letter is registered, it can be used against you. So you always have to respond. And that's very important. And I don't know, is that something that you'd agree with as well? That?
Absolutely. It drives me nuts. I see these people and they go in, call them like truth groups and stuff like that and say, oh, it's only a legal fiction, ignore it. Well, your legal fiction is the one that pays all the fines, right? The legal fiction's on your bank account where they can take all the money out of your legal fiction, and you're the one that can actually spend that, right, to go and buy food for your family or whatever, So yeah, all right, it's a legal fiction, but you don't ignore anything. Plus, right, which is why we have all the evidence in the files, you acknowledge every single communication you get. You respond to every communication you get. You've got your paper trail, right? Especially when you are the one that's in the right, and you're using equity, GDPR, Lower Property Act, whatever it would be, and you actually put the trail in. So yeah, never. It doesn't matter if it's for a debt for a credit card or, I've seen people saying, I'll just ignore it for 6 years and it'll go away, right? I mean, that's not strictly true. Yes, it can become statute barred, which means they can't enforce it in court, but they can still keep asking you for it, right? So don't think that there's not. There is ways of stopping that as well, but it's complicated, and then you still have to actually use paperwork. So why not do it in the beginning and shut them down anyway, using like GDPR, DPA, and equity, as we actually show people how to do it. And again, all of it, it's just government legislation. We don't own it. I can't tell, oh, you're not allowed to use that. Only I can. And no one else can say to me, that's ours. No. Go on to ChatGPT and just write in, create me a subject access request for a credit card company or a debt collector. And it'll print you one up that I bet would be quite useful, right? Fair enough, it's not going to be laser toned to someone who's doing nothing but that, but it would be useful. So people can't tell you, that you can't use government legislation that's on the government websites that you can download and read yourself. Obviously not many people do that because it is quite boring and complicated, but anyone can do it. Anyone.
What they do here, I'd say they do it in most countries as well, but it's happened to me a lot here, is, whether it's 5 years, 4 years, sometimes it can be even more. They wait till the last day, and then they come in for the claim, plus interest, plus penalties. And something that could be, say, 10 grand is now 40 grand. And you're like, well, And like I even had a case with insurance that you have to, even though I went to a different insurance provider, you have to cancel the other one, even though they wouldn't cover you. If I crashed, you think they would pay me? Not in a million years. But they claimed that like for 4 years plus interest plus like they were coming after me for a lot. And only I actually kept the documentation where I had done it. But most people wouldn't even know you've done that. But you shouldn't do that. But if I didn't, and when I said, hey, can I get something? No, for all my wasted time and solicitor's costs and everything. No. And it's like the whole system in everything is so corrupt, and it just frustrates me, which gives me the fuel to fight all this.
Yeah, well, that's it. You need that fuel, don't you? But like, you know, that fuel, be it like anger, frustration, or whatever, you know, as long as you're using it in a positive way, you know, it's okay, I'm gonna go after them, but you're not doing it, you know, just like to cause trouble. You're doing it for justice, you know, be it on your own behalf or others, the behalf of others, then it's a positive outcome or it's a positive challenge, you know. So, which is why we've got this file for next week. I'm actually going somewhere. I've got another meeting tonight where I'm helping someone again. They're trying to take his house off him, you know? So, and it's just pure corruption. It's not like he didn't pay anything, you know? It's not like anything didn't happen. It's literal corruption. And it's all done by the legal society, all done by the legal firms. They are vile, you know? So, but yeah, it's you know,
One of the guys that Tom Darcy was on my show twice, and he really, because his stuff was taken, every single mortgage that they checked, I don't know, was it 3,500 or something? Every single one of them was overcharged with interest payments. And yet they came in and they said, hey, it was money. Some of them was a lot, like 10, 20 grand that they were overpaid, and nothing was done about it. It's like, it is so sick. He even proved that the Bank of Ireland, AIB Bank was actually not, they were bankrupt or they were gone as they were still trading. So it was illegal what they were doing. He had so much stuff and they just attacked him. All the media attacked him and everything. And that's the problem. We talked about that, putting your head above the parapet. I've kind of learned at times, I do things differently now because I started going after the city and everything for all the stuff. It's simple to take Rye out. It's like, oh yeah, let's just bombard him with paperwork and everything, because everyone will talk about how to fight this together. They're all there with their guns ready and they just turn around and run and you're on your own. So you just have to remember that it's easy. If all it takes is all of us to stand up and go, hey, this is wrong. But unfortunately they don't. So you just have to be very cautious. So I'm looking forward to next month when you're actually going to tell us exactly how this went, because that's a very interesting one for me. But there's a few things I want to touch before we, like the farming, because I know we were talking about that as well. Like, so, you know, what about, I mean, I know they're being attacked, like you can't grow your own crops, you can't have your own chicken. It's like, people should just say right back, and it's just like, it's when it doesn't make sense, you know the corruption is going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like touch it. It's not I want to talk about the farming, but just something that's linked to it, because now we've got our own allotment, right? So, you know, I'm working on the allotment, trying to get it ready so I can plant and grow our own food. That's what I want, you know, getting there. And when we got there, you know, you got to go through all the rigmarole. This is what you're allowed to do. You're not allowed any goats on here. You know, you're not allowed any cows on here. Well, okay, all right. I'll have to keep the cow in my backyard then. But, you know, and it said if you want chickens, you're only allowed 6 chickens. And they all have to be DEFRA registered. They all have to be vaccinated. You've got to have the certificates for them. Like, yeah, you're okay. As if like I'm going to be bothering with any of that. But then I was talking to the guy next door in the allotment next door, and he's got massive big pigeon cree. Is that what it's called? Anyway, full of pigeons. And he was telling me now, honestly, can remember going through like lockdown, and you know, it was like 666. You got to stand 6 feet away from each other, and you're only allowed to be in a group of 6. They're doing it with pigeons.
Interesting number actually that they were using, isn't it?
Yes, 666. But you're only allowed, I don't know how many pigeons it is. You know, just
6.
Yeah, probably 6. But he's had to change all of the pigeon cree, so whatever it is, so that it's all divided, so that they can't meet each other. Isn't that fucking insane?
But it's worse that he does that. You know, like that people are just complying, and it's when you face them, and just stand up to it. They just buckle and walk away. But you have to learn your sovereignty and just challenge it. But most people, they don't. They just assume
100%.
because they're doing it, they're right and I'm wrong, and they have control over me.
But even when they let them out, because these are racing pigeons, you know, and apparently he's quite a champion in England or whatever. But they're only allowed to let them out a few at a time as well, so they don't meet each other. Because obviously, you know, when you go through the woods and the forest, you know, you got all the pigeons, they're staying away from each other. You know what I mean? It's like the old, oh, no. Defra says we're not allowed to be together. So you stay on that tree, I'm staying on this tree. Like, oh my God. You know, and I was just trying to talk to him, and I was being careful, you know, because you know what I mean? Everybody's different. And I went, well, so just make you do these stupid things. Like, it's just like when they were locking people up and locking people down and saying, don't worry about stuff like that. That's crazy. And you went, no. Did you not hear about the farmer there? And it was like one of the chickens had passed bird flu onto the pig. And I just looked at him. I just went, that's a load of bollocks, mate. I was about, I thought at his point, I'm not talking to him anymore. Not about that anyway. Like, I'll keep my pigeons 6 at a time in these boxes. And
That's like the people that think that Katy Perry went to space, like the same kind of thing, like it's.
Oh man, but anyway, so you know, just that related. But this farm in England, I think it's in England, right? It's an organic farm with organic hens. Right, I think it was something in the region of about like 20,000. Now, because they're organic, which means like they're probably not vaccinating them, they're not mixing them, right? They're killing them all, right? The government are going in and they're going to cull every single one, which is going to wipe out this family's business. By the way, you're shutting down the farm, you're shutting down the business, you're shutting down like feeding the family. That entire business is gone. Right? It was a sustainable, great farming business. Now, because of your insanity, thinking that a bird's not allowed to fly next to each other in the sky, there's about 10 pigeons sitting on that house over there, for God's sake. Right? You know, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just insanity.
Create mosquitoes in a lab and just release billions of them, and that's normal. That's okay.
It's just, oh, you know what I mean? It's just absolute nuts. So they're actually going to cull them. Now, listen, like last year, right, it was in July, it was Janine's birthday. We went up into a little bit further into Northumberland, the middle of the countryside. It's the only set of wild cattle in existence that anyone knows of anyway in the whole world, right? It's nowhere else in the world. There's these huge, when I say huge, I wouldn't want one jumping on me, right? But they're not as big as our cows because our cows are artificially made huge by steroids, right? These are big animals, but they're not big fat animals like our cows full of fat and steroids, right? And, you know, there was only 4 people that were on this bus. It wasn't a bus. It was this horrible, rickety old, like, trailer that you were sitting on. And it was like quite a cold, damp day. It was in July, but it was like quite damp, cold. So we're wrapped up, you know, go in. He said, we've got to go in the field. We can't go too close because they'll attack you, you know. And so you're going in and you've got binoculars so you can see them and asking questions. And so he says, it's amazing this. We don't even know how long they've been here, but we know that the Romans knew of them. There's reports from the Romans, like, you know, 55 BC, whatever it was, you know, that they were here. Roaming around in Northumberland. They're like white cattle, I think, with red ears, right? Great big horns.
And are they hairy? Are they hairy?
No. They're not like Highland cattle. No. Smooth white. Yeah. But they're left alone completely. No one's allowed to go in and touch them. No vets are allowed to go and touch them. No vaccinations, no tick treatment, no flea treatment, right? The food is what they eat. They don't get given fodder or hay or anything. They eat on the fields. They do like try and manipulate it to stop other cows wandering in or anything, but they're left alone completely. So there was the other guy he went, so do you have any problems with like bovine disease or this flu or like the badgers? He went, no, it's funny. Like, you know, we never have any problem with like anything like that, you know, where they had a mad cow's disease and killed them all or anything. We never have any problem with that. You know, he says it's really weird. We don't understand why. We'll have no problem with ticks, no infestations, no problem with fleas, you know, and nothing like that. You know, you get the odd one here and there, but it's not a problem. And they're really healthy. I was thinking, yeah, because they're left alone by nature. Because nature looks after nature. That's why I didn't say anything, but I was just like, come on. You know, he says what?
It's like the Amish not getting the job, like that they don't have any of the different things that you see.
No,
One
nothing
work,
left to nature, and that really healthy group. There's like 3 herds that wander around. I mean, it's miles and miles and miles of this woodland and forest, and you know, and fields and everything, and it's all blocked off, so you know you can't get anything going in. Apart from this fox wandered right through the herd and stopped and stared at us for a little while, and then wandered off. Yeah, it was great, and you know, watching just but yeah, just left alone. And nature looks after them. Funnily enough, innit? Who would have guessed? But do you know what I mean? So then you get them interfering, saying, "Well, you know, we have to like look after nature. We have to look after the food supply. So let's destroy them all to look after the food supply." Yeah, really? So we're gonna wipe out this family's entire sustainable business. They're gonna lose their jobs, their home, right? God knows what. I mean, what they're gonna do? Go on the door, try and go in.
And if they have a mortgage, it's tough shit on you. Yeah,
lost.
and now we'll take your house as well.
Oh yeah,
From people's line on the whole lot, like
yeah. But at the same, and they're saying this is to be sustainable farming and looking after farming. But at the same week, we're having a report in the UK where we're having to like sustain this farming by killing all the animals, right? The UK government, they've just imported nearly £1 billion worth of coal to come into this country, right, to help power stations and steel plants in England, right? And the coal came from Japan, right? But here's the even bigger kicker. Where was it actually mined? Australia. So they've mined this coal in Australia, sent it to Japan. Someone in the UK has bought it from Japan to ship it into England so it can go and run some coal plant and steel plant in England. Even though, right, I mean, also obviously it's getting shipped in by like giant ship containers. Like, and what do they run on? Well, it ain't electric. They haven't got a Tesla battery in the bottom of them great big super tankers, okay? It's all diesel, right? The whole world is run on diesel, by the way. The whole shipping industry, you can't have anything except diesel running these great big tankers that cross the oceans and bring all of our supplies in, right? So they're bringing in 700 million, nearly £1 billion worth of coal, rather than opening up one mine. There was one mine right next to where the actual steel plant is that would have taken out billions of tons of coal that would have been able to run the steel plant, given hundreds of jobs as well. And actually, but they say, oh, no, that would be too big a carbon footprint. So we want to bring it from Australia to Japan, then over here on these great big ships that are using all of that diesel. And at the same time, we're flying over to Davos on our private planes, right? While we don't want to dig up any coal because it's not good for the planet. Like, you know,
Ireland is, we had a lot of peat, and boarding them on at the peat was like, you know, for lighting fires and stuff like that. No, that's bad for the environment. And now they're importing it, and you're going, like, it's the exact same thing. Like, and yeah, 1,500 planes, private planes. That was recently in the Amazon. I don't know, is it eight square miles or something that they've cut a big the Amazon forest to build a runway for a climate change event. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's every single thing is just kind of like taking the piss, and people just kind of go along with it. They just regurgitate the crap that they tell them, and that's the problem, is people are regurgitating and attacking you for kind of going, hey, this is wrong, like, you know.
That's the clever people that want to go and glue themselves to the trains and to the roads, you know, the ones with the real good common sense. Yeah, stop oil. Yeah, stop being a twat.
Exactly. Like what I like about that is you see them with their stop island. They're wearing their runners. Do you know what that's?
Yeah.
Their banner is made of plastic. Every single thing that they've got their phones. They've got every single thing. It's like they're just showing their IQ when they're doing that kind of stuff.
Exactly. There you go. Using the glue. Where'd the glue come from? Gluing themselves to the train. Where'd that come from? Or they're throwing the paint on the buildings in the art gallery. Where'd that paint come from? Did you buy that? You know, honestly, the stupidity of them.
I mean, if they, to me,
Beyond belief.
like if it was me, I would never. If they glued themselves, I'd just leave them there. Yeah, and just that's on them. Why would you go rescue them? I mean, if you're an idiot, you know, it's natural selection, like.
Well, yeah, there you go. See how long you stay stuck to that train at 125 miles an hour. These bodies fly. They'll be gone. Oh, so there you go. There's another stop oil protester. It's just insanity, though, that people would think that you know. And the thing is, right? You go down the beach. I live right on the beach there. Absolutely gorgeous. We go down there every day. Take the dog down, and now obviously it's light, so we can actually see the thing now, and gorgeous, right? But last weekend, I had a nice weekend. So I think it was, I don't know if the schools broke up, but there was a lot of kids down the beach and everything like that. And you know, there's parts of the beach that you're not allowed to walk your dog on in the summer for mess, right? Where you think there'd been 1,000 people riot down the beach, right? Everything that they left, all the crap that they left, and the problems us walking our dogs. Are you kidding me? Right? That's ruining the planet. Right? That's what you and these are the ones that'll be like, oh no, we want an electric car. You know, we want a heat pump for the house rather than have gas and don't burn that wood in your house. You know, fuck off. It's like, but and then they leave all this garbage, literally glass and like plastic everywhere. All these plastic bottles, like, you know, the brain can't like fathom out that if you have a bag full of food, then put it all back in the bag and take it home with you. No, I'll leave it on the beach. I'm sure it'll get trampled into the sand by some poor animal, or some like bird gets its head stuck in there, or, you know, protect the birds. No, like, you know, honestly.
There was an interesting one I saw just today. There was in Ireland, the guy's going along and he goes, look at this, all the people throwing their McDonald's wrappers, and he says it's bad enough that they're eating this crap, but they're actually dumping it. But all the ideas on it, where it's like the time and everything. And he says, hey, I think I can get these guys because that will show the time that they done and we'll be able to trace them. And when he went back, they wouldn't give him the details due to GDPR.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they know what they're doing, though, don't they? Yeah, dog shit. That's what I call it. But dog shits. Like, you would eat that stuff, like, you know. Ugh.
Yeah. But listen, Peter, as always, thoroughly enjoyed it. We never know where this is going, but I'm looking forward to the next one to see the progress, because I know that all the stuff you're doing is helping. And I love the fact that you're so generous with the information. Even at the start, when we were talking about the martial arts and stuff like that and how to protect yourself, you have a lot of free stuff. I know for a fact there's people charging thousands for things like that. So where will they find you? Where will they find all that stuff? Where's the best place to get it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the actual website to try and get in to join is claimyourstrawman.com. Okay, claimyourstrawman.com. But, you know, you're in the actual Checkmate the Matrix group. Put that link in as well. If you go to, it's like school.com, which is like a platform basically similar to Facebook, really. But it's like SKOOL, school.com, and then just search Checkmate the Matrix in there and you'll find it. It's free to join that school.com, and it's free to join loads of different groups as well. You know, so we've got a free side of it, and there's tons of free information in there, including the self-defense. You know, but yeah, get into that. That's the best way to do it. So you can go on claimyourstrawman.com, or just go and search for Checkmate the Matrix in the school.com platform.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and the video. And just for the listeners, that, I mean, you know what we're going to talk about next time, but just make sure you go to awakeningpodcast.org. If you have questions for Peter, let me know. I'll write them down and I'll make sure we cover them in the next one. You'll find everything about me, roycollin.com. Scan the QR code. You'll find the 6 podcasts. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to va.world. Until next week, take care.